Steel Curtain Network.
¡Pique the Pickens! ¡Pique the Pickens! ¡Pique the Pickens!
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? Welcome to a very special Wednesday episode of the Steelers Preview. That's right. It's not Thursday night. That's Thanksgiving. We're going to be with family, and we're not going to be doing this show on Thursday night. So if you happen to be joining us here on Wednesday afternoon, welcome to the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman. Joining me, as always, Dave Schofield and Brian Davis. Dave, what's going on?
Hey, I'm just ready to get this good holiday going. It kind of seems like it kicks in as soon as, school and work and everything are over on Wednesday. So it feels like it's that Thanksgiving time.
Absolutely agree. Brian, what's going on?
Wow, this is going to be a long, happy weekend. My weekend has started today, and it's Wednesday, so I feel like the vacation is upon us. And, I think there was some news this week with the Steelers, and I guess we might discuss that.
Not really. It's been a slow week. Slow news week.
But I think
guys, we already did that last night on Scobro.
You did
Okay,
last night. That's true. That's true.
But if I would support my teammates here and watch their shows, I would know that. But I think that this week now there's going to be a lot of eyes, not just Pittsburgh eyes on this game. There's going to be a lot of eyes on this game to see what happens, just like there was eyes on the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets last week to see what are the I don't want to say repercussions. What are the benefits? What are the repercussions? What will happen after the change?
It's going to be interesting. And now Dave Schofield did get a chance to give his thoughts and opinions on the Scobro show, but I'll throw it to you first, Dave, and say, now that the dust has really settled on this, well over 24 hours since the Steelers decided to fire Matt Canada, do you have any thoughts that you didn't share on your previous show that you wanted to share now?
Oh, man, I talked for so much about it and so long. I don't know that there's any words left in the English language
And that's fine.
that I can use to say about it that I haven't already said.
Well, let me ask it a different way.
Brian hasn't had a chance.
Well, let me ask it a different way. I'll give Brian a chance here in a second, but let me ask it in a different way then, Dave. Let's talk about what are your expectations for this week in terms of the offense?
Yeah, well, see, that's interesting because I actually did a Twitter poll. I don't usually do my own Twitter polls outside of, the occasional SCN poll. But I did one after Matt Canada was fired yesterday. It had 122 votes, so not all that many. But the options were, what's your confidence level in the Steelers offense this week now that Matt Canada has been let go? And it was look out Bengals. It'll take time. It's still the same players, or things can and will get worse. Well, Of course, you're always going to get that part of Steelers Nation. 6% said it. Things can and will get worse with Canada being gone.
Let me say where I would have voted, because I did not vote in this poll. I didn't see it. I would have voted it's going to take time. Brian, what would you have voted?
What were the first two options again?
It was look out Bengals. It'll take time. It's still the same players, and things will get worse.
I'm actually going to say look out Bengals.
Well, 26% said look out Bengals, while 57% said it'll take time. So I think that there is probably a silent majority of Steelers Nation that understand that this week could be one of those figuring it out weeks. But at the same time, I'm going to talk about this. You'll hear it if you listen to Stat Geek tomorrow morning. I'm going to talk about this is actually a pretty good matchup for this to happen, for this to be the transition week, because I would love to see something like what happened with the Bills, where they kind of seemed a little bit revamped. Even if it takes a little bit to figure it out, it didn't take much long to figure it out on defense is what I thought it would during the game last week, whenever it came to safety and inside linebacker. So
right.
I'm hoping that the offense can keep rolling. And I'm going to say it again, because even though it's a repeat from last night, I'm just excited to know that I might not be, that there's a chance I'm going to be turning on the TV and not just seeing the same old Steelers offense.
The boring Steelers offense.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Boring.
Seriously.
Boring.
So let's give Brian a chance. The last time he was on a show was with Coach KT Smith, and this move had not been made yet. Brian, when you saw the news, heard the news, however you heard the news that Matt Canada was fired, what were your thoughts?
You know what? I was stunned. I was like, by God, they did it. It was one of those things. So I have a lot of thoughts that I have not had a chance to share. So Jeff, go break out the Oklahoma Joe, go grill a steak. Dave, go to Chick-fil-A, feed the family. And I tell you what, I've got some things to say. Now, it's this one thing that, by the way, Jeff, fantastic show on Steel Curtain Network. Let's Ride. You previewed that you were going to go off. And I did not listen to it until after I recorded Bad Language, but I knew what you were going to do. So I kind of tacked on top of what you were going to do. And one of the words that I said was hope. I said, the only thing that this is going to give you is hope that there can be change and there can be something around the corner, because we knew darn well, and you have heard me say this a lot, I'm going to continue to say this, the Steelers, since 1941, when it comes to a coach, do not fire. They just don't rehire. And they were going to do it again. But something broke. And the things that broke were Najee Harris saying, I'm sick of this bleep. Deontay Johnson going off on the sidelines. It was demoralized. I mean, a demoralized locker room. This team, they were losing this team. And Mike Tomlin saw it and made that change. And I'm going to say this right now. There's a lot of Jer Bear is out there saying, "Oh, this wasn't Tomlin. This was all of Art Rooney." I'm here to tell you, I don't think it was. I'm almost certain it was not. This is Mike Tomlin saying enough is enough, and he's getting his team back. Kenny Pickett was in shackles. He was absolutely in shackles with this team, not allowed to audible early in the season, not allowed to do anything. Kenny Pickett was in his head. Am I saying that Kenny Pickett is a great quarterback? We have not seen it yet. I saw some flashes last season that if it's Kenny Unchained, then, well, if it's Kenny Unchained, then we might see something. But look at the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. That's a team that offense completely changed by firing that offensive coordinator in just a few days against a fantastic defense in the New York Jets. So I've said this all along too. Where we were talking about if you can get rid of Canada, I said this and you guys agreed. The playbook's not bad. There's nothing wrong with Matt Canada's playbook. It's the judgment of the coordinator calling the shots. It's being able to look into that playbook when you can't script it. It's being able to figure out that, oh my God, I've got to switch on the fly. We've got to adapt. Matt Canada wasn't able to do that. So for all of that, now you have hope. You have hope that someone else could look at the same playbook, because you can't change a playbook right now. But look at that same playbook and say, this is where we use this, because we've seen Matt Canada plays work over the last 2 years. We've seen them work, but not in the right spot. So that's where I'm coming up with hope. It's episode 2. It's episode 4, Dave. It's a new hope.
Jeff has no idea what we're talking about.
No, none. Absolutely not. But I did listen to Bad Language. It was a great episode. And I thought it paired well with my Monday Let's Ride. My Let's Ride today, Wednesday, talks about what the Steelers got to do from now. But you know what I found interesting was Kenny Pickett met with the media today, Wednesday. I want to read a quote. Now, he talked about how he called Matt Canada, and he told Matt Canada, like, wish you well. No one wants to see their coach get fired. I get it. So this is from Mark Cabali of The Athletic. Quote, this is from Kenny Pickett. I am a perfectionist and always have been that way. I have always been the hardest on myself. There is a balance to that. Here's what really stuck with me. I want to go out there and have fun playing and do what I have done my entire life. That's what I want to get back to. Now that's telling for me. That last part.
Yes, it is.
Where he says, that's what I want to get back to. In other words, he was not having fun playing the game anymore. Think about Kenny Pickett in the preseason when Kenny Pickett was, sauntering off the field after throwing touchdowns, doing celebrations with his teammates. It was fun. They were succeeding. sometimes you have these situations where it almost feels like the life can get sucked out and it's not fun anymore. And when it's not fun anymore, that's when everything can be tarnished or spoiled. Bryan, what do you want to say?
Oh, I want to say it. I just thought of something.
Uh-oh.
Kenneth Shane Falco Pickett.
Oh, gosh, please don't.
That is who he can be here. He can be a breath of fresh air if he's allowed to have fun. Shane Falco.
Such a
he's going to go in
meeting.
the huddle. He's going to go in the huddle, and he's going to say it. You know what he's going to say?
Nah,
Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Someone shoot me now. All right, but anyways, Kenny Pickett speaks to the media, and obviously he's talking about how he's excited to maybe have some fun again. And so that to me is very telling. Dave, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with how telling that is, because sometimes you can take something someone says about one thing and realize how it's kind of applying to something else. Like one of those, it was one of those comments that Mike Tomlin said complimenting the Browns offense, and that they actually, set up their quarterback to not put him in a bad situation against the Steelers and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But is that also saying that, they won because they set up their quarterback and we didn't?
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying? I mean, sometimes you wonder if that's the case. So with this saying, I want to get back to having fun. What he's saying is he wasn't having fun, and he wouldn't say it now unless he thinks that was the problem as to why he wasn't having fun. Because if not, there's no other reason to say it now. And it sounds harmless, but it really does speak to what was going on.
Go ahead, Bryan. What do you want to say?
Yeah, no one wants to speak ill of the dead, and in this case, ill of the fired. But this goes back to the being in shackles and not being allowed to audible, not being able to do what that you want to do, and not being able to lead your team. And we have heard this through sources. We have heard this throughout the entire season, the entire year, that Kenny is not allowed to be Kenny. So now, this does not mean that Kenny's going to just turn around and be an amazing quarterback. We're not saying that, but you should see some improvement from Kenny Pickett. And when you have that monkey off your back and that weight lifted, and it's almost like the cat's away time to play type thing, because now you don't have somebody telling you, yo, you can't do this. This isn't like Little Orphan Annie and Carol Burnett's character. I forget what her name was. This was a hard knock life. Now it's not anymore.
Let me ask you all.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
he's bringing up all these other references.
Go ahead.
Now I'm just thinking of Kenny Pickett, going up to Mike Sullivan. Please, sir, can I have some more play action?
Oh, Miss Hannigan, by the way. But
oh my gosh, you guys totally derailed my train of thought. I was going to ask you all a question, and you all get into these movie references. Okay, I found it. Yep, nailed it. Okay, here we go. Last question before we talk about the Bengals game coming up, because that's what we do on the Steelers preview.
Yes.
Simple question, yes or no? If the Steelers find a way to win last Sunday, so let's say they get the ball. Remember, it was just shy of midfield. They go into field. They were on the cusp of Chris Boswell's field goal range. Everything goes bad. They get backed out. They have to punt the ball away. If they win that game, even as ugly as we could imagine it to be, you think Matt Canada is still employed by the Steelers today, Dave?
Probably.
Yeah.
I do.
Bryan, what do you think?
Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes. There is no.
So
you said this, Jeff or Dave, or maybe I said it a long time ago in the season, that they've got to hit absolute rock bottom and then some to make the change. And that was rock bottom for this team, especially when you've lost the players and you saw the players were dejected, demoralized. There's no way he would have been here. It had to be Armageddon.
Yeah.
And I think someone said in our live chat last night, we had a lot of people. Or maybe Big Bro said it. So someone said, so is it actually better for the Steelers in the long run that they lost that game? Because
so someone
we'll,
asked
we'll
me.
only see, and we won't know until we get back on the field.
No,
Or did you say
absolutely.
that? Did you say it on Let's Ride? Someone said it.
Someone asked me the question. It was the last question of the mailbag, saying
that's where I heard
only the Browns would beat the Steelers and somehow, maybe some way, help the Steelers get better and improve. So they beat the Steelers. They fire their coordinator if the offense actually shows signs of life and start to score more points, and Kenny Pickett is more comfortable. Only the Browns would be able to do that. I think that's what I remember. That's what I thought of.
Yes, I knew it was somewhere.
You know what it does too? It also helps 2024, because think about this. You're picking up the pieces now. The change is gone. You're all this stuff. Oh, we couldn't do that with Canada. We couldn't do that. Blah, blah, blah. All that stuff, all that healing happens now in 2024. Sure, I will bet my bottom dollar that they're bringing in somebody from the outside. They're bringing in somebody new. And if they do that, but it's not like, oh, this is better than Canada. Canada's way in the rear view mirror then. So it helps 2024 in a big way.
I had close to 60 questions in my mailbag for this Wednesday's Let's Ride. It's like a new record. And I even had some that missed the recording that I answered on Twitter. But everyone wanted to know, who are they going to hire? I'm not even touching that right now. That's like someone asking me a draft question right now. Let's see how this year goes. Because if they still suck, then there's a whole other slew of issues that they have to address this offseason, not just who's going to be calling plays. So we'll have to see how it goes. I understand what you're saying. I understand about 2024. That makes total sense. But ultimately, let's just see how this plays out. And let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals coming up here on Sunday. Dave, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing to close that out. For those of you that are like, it's the Steelers. They're not going to pay anybody. They're not going to blah, blah, blah. Remember this. The last time they hired an offensive coordinator with Matt Canada, that was in the spring of 2021. They were coming off a season of nobody in the seats. So they were hurting. Now, hopefully, that's not their driving force.
Hurting financially?
Yeah.
The $1 billion organization?
Still, no, but it's still money in and money out, Jeff. You just
didn't
have the money coming in.
Yeah, I get it. All right, hey, let's get the super chat here before we roll into the Bengals game. A Steele gives us $4.99, says, happy Thanksgiving, men. Do you foresee Kenny Pickett throwing down the middle this Sunday to show a change? Wonder how many times George Pickens gets targeted. This game will be interesting. It absolutely will be interesting. Do you see, we'll ask this question before we move on. Do you foresee Kenny Pickett and the offensive scheme looking any different in terms of, well, in this case, the question was directional passing over the middle? Dave, what are your thoughts?
I want him to throw over the middle if the middle's open. I want him, and I want him to throw to the sideline if the sideline's open. I want him to do what's open, what's actually open at that time, not what the offensive coordinator thinks will be open because of everything. It's almost like Matt Canada decided the middle of the field wasn't open, whether it was or it wasn't. So I just want them to actually do things that make sense based on what the defense is doing. And I also want them to not be, but as soon as they step out on the field with these players and this formation, that everyone watching and the defense on the other side knows what's coming. That's, I think, the biggest advantage that they can have right now is actually being a bit of an enigma, a bit of an unknown.
Sure. Bryan, thoughts?
The philosophy has got to change. And when you change the philosophy, you're going to see a change on the field because of that. Dave's absolutely correct. You don't want to force it. You just don't want to force that. But if you start showing some things over the middle, and the defense will start thinking, all right, maybe they will go over the middle now, because teams were just it was so predictable that teams weren't even worried about the middle of the field. So there's ways to do it without forcing it and still be smart by just showing some things. And there's ways to soften that middle without forcing.
Dave, go
ahead. I want to ask Jeff a question.
Sure.
If the Steelers' first offensive play, they line up in their typical formation, And Kenny Pickett takes the ball.
What is their typical formation that you're referring to?
Just how they always do, and you're going to run it right up the middle on the first play. They don't always do that, but more often.
I get it. Okay.
You line up like you're going to hand it off to Najee Harris, like all those formations the Browns kept keying on. And they fake it to Najee Harris and hit Pat Fairmouth going right down the middle of the field. How much will Steelers Nation completely lose their minds?
They will love it. They'll
if they do it on the first play.
There's only one player that if he catches a pass, they would go even more nuts, and that's Darnell Washington. If they ran it to Darnell Washington, I think there would be like a mini implosion on Steelers Twitter. Like it'd be like, oh my gosh, Darnell Washington isn't just targeted, but down the seam like we all predicted and hoped all these years.
We're targeted in the red zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I think that, when you talk about the Steelers, that's clearly going to be the talking point this week is what is it going to look like? I will say this, I was a head coach only at the high school level, and it wasn't even football. So I'm not even trying to compare it, but I can compare it to coaches and players in a team sport. And I was the offensive coach for my lacrosse team. And there were times where we would have offensive systems implemented into our team, and they just weren't working. And I'd have the players come over and say, Coach, like, this isn't working. It's not working. So a coach does one of two things, right? He says, it's going to work. Keep doing it. Or he says, okay, let's make some adjustments. What are you seeing on the field? And do we have to can it? Because I got to be honest, in my 13 years of coaching, I had to can some offensive schemes that we ran. You just have to say, it's just not going to work with this team. I'm not throwing it away forever. This group, I can't do it. Everything we heard coming out of the Steelers organization was that Matt Canada was the first type of coach, which was, oh no, we just got to keep doing it. Just got to keep doing it. And they're like, but it's not working. Yeah. So maybe a little bit of adjustment from a mental perspective, getting some input from the players. It takes a special coach to be able to put his pride aside and say, I'm going to listen to what they're saying and what they see on the field, and let's see what we can make happen. So I think they did a little bit of that, and we saw some improvement in the run game. We saw some improvement in the early stages when we saw the back-to-back weeks with opening drive touchdowns. Let's see if this can be another wave of that type of change. We'll see. Okay, let's talk about the Bengals. Let's talk. This is Wednesday, folks, so if you're hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, why did they not have more of the injury report? There's only been one report. So, Dave, why don't you read out the Steelers injury report, and don't even read out players that were rested because it's not even worth it if they have an injury.
Okay. Here's the thing. I just hit refresh, and I now have the Bengals report too. So
that's nice.
Because I have to take a few minutes after this and go at it to the article. But oh well.
There
were 4 players that were interested, that weren't limited. They didn't practice. They were resting, not injury related. And just Sayamalu, Hayward, Peterson, and shockingly Levi Wallace. Don't know why that one was. But the 2 players that didn't practice due to injury were Minkah Fitzpatrick with a hamstring, and George Pickens with a shin. Then on top of that, there was 3 players that were limited: James Pierre with a shoulder, Nick Herbig with a hamstring, and Montravius Adams made it back to practice in a limited capacity.
That's going to be big. Mon Adams coming back will be a big help on the defensive line. If he can come back, we'll see. And you said Pickens didn't practice with a shin?
Pickens did not practice with a shin.
Bryan, what are your thoughts on the injury report?
Montravius Adams is a big deal, getting him back. I'm worried about the Pickens thing. I think you need all hands on deck. I would love to see Minkah back. I don't even know when that's going to happen, but the guys that are in there, the guys that are getting ready, they're the ones that are going to have to carry the load. Everybody's dealing with injuries this time of year. The Steelers are no exception. Every team is dealing with this. It's how they adapt. And we saw last week, we saw some great adaptions by number 17, Trenton Thompson, and of course, number 38, Michael Walker as well. So the next man up mentality is actually working, and it's next man up is really what's happening here. So you need these guys in here, but one thing they know how to do is to get these replacements ready to go, and that's the replacements is also the name of a Keanu Reeves movie.
Oh my gosh, stop with this stupid movie. Good God. Okay. Minkah Fitzpatrick is troubling. Because if he doesn't practice and play this week, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, that would be 4 games, yes?
That'd be 4 games.
Then why didn't they put him on injured reserve?
Because he's an all-pro safety.
I
If there's a
get that.
chance you could get him back after 3, then you can get by with him.
That's a medical mistake. If they did an MRI, if they came back and said this is bad, like Pat Freiermuth when he re-injured his hamstring, IR right away. Why? Because they knew this is going to take some time. So that's a medical mistake. That's not a coaching thing. I'm not blaming the coaching staff. It's the medical staff being able, like, hey, if they thought it was going to be closer than that, like I don't know.
Maybe they thought he was going to be jogging 2 weeks ago and he wasn't. I kind of understand it. I mean, think about this. In the 1995 season, when there was no designated to return, the Pittsburgh Steelers kept Rod Woodson on their 53-man roster the entire season. Was it 53 men then? I don't know. On their roster the entire season, just in case he could come back. So I understand Minkah is one of the few. I mean, if TJ Watt, when he got injured last year, if they said, you know what, it's probably going to be, instead of 8 games, what if it would have been 4? Do you put someone like that on IR? Or if you're saying, if I could get him back 1 game sooner, he's worth holding the spot and he'll just be inactive.
No, I get what you're. I understand it. I understand it. I'm talking
when it's somebody like a Kello Witherspoon last year or the year before, whichever one it was that he was last year. That one didn't make sense. That one didn't make sense. But you are talking Minkah Fitzpatrick. So if there's a few guys on the team that in my opinion, would get that pass. That if you're like, hey, if it's going to be 4, let's keep him on just in case. Because the second he's able to come back, I'd like him to come back.
Well said. Okay, what about the Bengals? What does that report look like?
Okay, the Bengals. They have this is my first time looking at it. Quarterback Joe Burrow did not practice with the right wrist.
Really?
They have not put him on IR yet. That's why he has to show up on there. T. Higgins, hamstring, did not practice. Defensive tackle DJ Reader, that was an illness, didn't practice. Cornerback Cam Taylor-Britt, he's a big one for them, isn't he?
Yep.
He didn't practice with a quad because he's the one who got knocked out of the game, right? That's why I knew his name because I wrote that article.
Yeah. Everyone thought it was going to be worse. Like it looked like a knee, but it turns out it was a quad injury. So he might not be ready. Yeah,
he might not be ready after 10 days, but at first they thought they were going to lose him for the season. He has like 4 interceptions this year and like 1 for a touchdown.
Big part of the defense.
Yeah. He's their number 1 corner. Linebacker, Akeem Davis Gaither was limited with the knee. Defensive tackle BJ Hill was limited with the knee. Defensive end Sam Hubbard was limited with an ankle. Wide receiver Andre Lascivus was limited with the knee. They don't have anyone that was due to rest because remember they played Thursday.
10 days off. Goodness gracious.
Halfback Chase Brown was full with a hamstring. The other ones that were full, but they listed them was wide receiver Trenton Irwin, defensive end Cam Sample, and offensive tackle Jonah Williams. They were listed, but they were all full.
I'm sorry, you just named a lot of names. Did you name T. Higgins?
Yeah, he's who I said right after Joe Burrow. Did not practice.
Did not.
The main ones. The ones that did not practice were Taylor Britt, DJ Reader. When I say Taylor Britt, that's his last name hyphenated. Cam Taylor Britt, DJ Reader, and T. Higgins were the not practicing ones, other than Burrow. They'll get around to putting Burrow on IR when they need to make the roster.
Yeah, for sure. Bryan, thoughts on that?
Well, those are some pretty big names there too. So I've been saying this all season long with the injury report. Because we looked at the Browns injury report and it looked like a lot of those guys were going to be out and they ended up playing in that game. It was, definitely with the big guy, DeWand Jones. So, with a lot of those players, the defensive backs, I kind of believe it when I see it.
It's early. It's only Wednesday. So even with Minkah, there's a chance he comes back to practice limited Thursday, ramps up on Fridays, full participant, and maybe he's questionable on the weekend. We don't know. There's a lot to happen still. This is early for us. We're not used to recording on a Wednesday, so if you're listening to this, keep that in mind. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. If you're watching live on Facebook, Twitter, or on YouTube, we're not going anywhere. On the audio side, we'll be right back after this break to talk about predictions, over-under game, and some trivia. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. And it is time for some people's favorite segment. I don't know if it's mine.
Definitely not mine anymore.
I do the segment, but I don't know if it's my favorite segment because sometimes I suck at it. So the over-under game. David, do we have the updated? I don't have my paper that I write these on normally.
I got it.
I'm not in my
got
house, and I'm actually in the room I grew up in. This is the house I grew up in. So,
are you back? Is that your old bedroom, Jeff?
This is my old bedroom. If these were NFL curtains here behind me, like it had every NFL team, that would have been like Jeff circa 1992.
Still have a race car bed?
No.
If those walls could talk.
Ugh. No, you don't want to know what they would have to say. And it's not the good stuff either. But anyway. What a lonely kid is what they've said. Anyways, Dave, go ahead with you.
This is hard to follow.
Here we go.
This is hard to follow. Anyway, Jeff, what are you complaining about? You were 4 for 5 last week.
Was I?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn straight. Look at me.
And I was 5 for 5, Dave.
That would be a big fat negatory, Brian. You were 1 for 5.
Yeah.
I was 3 for 5.
I'm horrible.
So Jeff, nice week. You made up 1. You're only 2 behind me now. I'm at 25. Jeff's at 23, and Brian went from being down 6 to first place, is now down 6 to second place. He's at 17.
Okay. And Gavin in the live chat asked, "Am I in West Virginia?" Yes, I am back in the old stomping grounds of Wheeling, West Virginia for the Thanksgiving holiday. So yes, hopefully none of y'all are here. I'm just All right, so here we go. Over under. I did only offense this time. I went nothing but offense because it's a change in the coordinator and the Steelers have to step up and they've got to perform. So let's do this. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers rushing yards as a team. Now, I looked at the Bengals numbers. They're actually really bad. They're the second worst rush defense in the
NFL.
NFL.
my thunder for Stat Geek tomorrow.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's the only thing I looked at. That's the only thing.
Yeah, they are 31st in the NFL.
Yeah, they're bad. Other than Denver's worst. That's it. So Pittsburgh Steelers rushing yards. I actually did not go as crazy as I thought I would. 155.5 is the number. Team rushing 155.5. Brian, what do you think?
Well, let's go over. I think they're going to continue to need to run the football.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going over as well. I mean, they've gone over 160 the last 3 games.
It's true.
And there's no reason to stop that. Now that, you made your running backs coach the offensive coordinator. I think they're going to want to continue to feature the run game as long as it's successful.
Yeah, and Eddie Faulkner went on a Twitter blocking spree today. He's blocking everybody. I love it. It's hysterical for no reason. He's pulling a Big Ben 7. So he's focused. They're going to run the football, take the over. I'm going to take the over as well. Let's go with Kenny Pickett passing yards. This line was so hard to try and figure out because you have no clue what to expect. He threw for just over 100 last week, like 120 the week before. I'm expecting a little bit better, but I'm not expecting a ton. I've got 165.5. 165.5. Brian, what do you think?
I could go over with that.
Okay. Dave?
I was hoping you would be more in the 130s. But honestly, in my mind, I think he can get to 180. I mean, It's not like this is a great Bengals passing defense either.
Yeah,
27th in the NFL in passing.
Yeah, that's
so that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that's an over, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even if you think he's not going to do all that well, just better than the last 2 weeks, then it's an over. So I'm going over.
I too am going over. I'm feeling good. Think Kenny Pickett's. I'm not saying he's going to throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns, but I think it's going to be better. Let's go with the next one. George Pickens yards. 66.5. Brian, thoughts?
Hell, over. Let's just.
Oh, he's in the overs club today.
Yep. Oh. I've got my O face on. Oh.
That's a different thing.
Oh, Canada. Sorry. Can't say that anymore. You know what? I'm going. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go. I'm going to go under. I feel bad for George, but who knows? Maybe he doesn't play.
Oh,
I think he will play with this shit.
If he doesn't play, the bet's negated.
No, that's why I'm going under. No.
Oh, come
Well,
on.
we did that before. No.
We said that before.
You can't say I know, but you said it before I made my pick, not after.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I'm still going to go under just because I got to mix it up.
I'm going over because I think Pickens has a couple big catches because I think they're going to throw deep more. Okay. Next, this is a fun one. Pat Freiermuth yards. Last week was a whopping, I don't even think he hit double digits. It was like 7 yards, I think, receiving.
But 11 because they threw it to him 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So
I actually 35.5. I don't know why I'm thinking that Pat might have, gosh, again, we're talking about 35.5 yards. Like for any capable pass catcher in the NFL, that's not a huge day yet. Here we are thinking, man, that's a lot for Pat. Brian, what do you think?
You know what? I was tempted to go under, but nope. Over.
There it is.
Well, I know Jeff's going to go over, so I don't want to get behind again. I'm going to go over just because I think they'll actually throw him more than one pass. Now, he's only hit double digits one time all season. Things are good. I guess I'm going to go west. I'm the king of wishful thinking. I think the offense is going to look different. That's what makes this so hard to predict this week, but I'm going to go with it. I'll give you over.
I'm going under. Pat Freiermuth is going to make his way back, but he's not this week. I think it's going to be a very ground and pound style game. They're going to take 33? Their shots. Yeah, 34. All right, last one. Steelers sacks surrendered. Okay, so how many sacks are they going to give up? I have that line at 2.5. Brian, what do you think?
We're going to go over on that.
Oh,
Brian went straight overs on
all
everything.
Overs for Brian. He is in the overs club.
Overs. Well, the Bengals. You know what? I do it, but this is a tough one. I'm going to go over because I still don't trust Kenny Pickett to not do the duck and spin left. One thing at a time. Start reading the whole field. Start making better plays. That's something that I still think that's like one of the things Coach Sean was talking about. It's September ball in November. That's something that should have been fixed a while ago with him doing that. But now you can only fix so many things in 1 week, in my opinion. So I wouldn't be shocked if he, Cincinnati does get after the quarterback all right. I'm going to go over. I was really tempted to go under, but yeah, I'll go over. Jeff,
I'm going under with 2. I think Kenny's going to be getting the ball out of his hands quickly. They're going to try more of the over the middle intermediate stuff. They're going to try and run the ball. They're going to try to take that one thing I think that the defense is the Cincinnati Bengals does well, and that is get after the quarterback and try and decrease that. So I'm taking the under. I'm going to take the under. They're going to give up some sacks. Hopefully they don't give up any, but I think it's the under. So there you have it. Let's talk about the prediction for this game. Before we do that, Mike Smith gave us $5. Thank you very much. He said, I was looking forward to round 2 of Small Hand Joe versus BK Burger King Kenny. No Carney Bowl this year. The Carney Bowl. I love that. Reference of Austin Powers for those that don't get it. It's the only thing I don't like about Carnies. They small hands smell like cabbage. Okay.
There are only 2 things that scare me. One of them is nuclear war.
Smell like cabbage. All right. Here's what's funny is that I looked up now. Again, we're recording this on Wednesday. Even if we don't run this until Thursday on our audio side, we're recording this on Wednesday. So the Steelers are actually 1-point favorites in this game. They're giving the Bengals 1 on the road with a total of 34.5. 34.5.
I thought it was 32.5. Yesterday.
You saw 32.5? Wow,
yesterday.
That's incredible. Okay. So they know how to pick them. Brian, what's your prediction?
All right. I am going to go under with the Steelers scoring less than 34.5. But I'm going to take the over for the game because the Steelers are winning this game 33-24.
33-24. Wow.
Crap.
Backup quarterback for the Bengals. Wow.
Yep.
Their Steelers defense is giving up 24.
Yes, sir, they are.
Woo. Okay. Hey,
another little hint towards Stat Geek. Steelers defense up to 7th in the league in points allowed.
Hey, that's interesting. So, Dave, don't spoil your own stat geek. Okay, you tease it, but you don't spoil it.
Well, I'm giving you one thing.
You all can hear. Hey, you can hear Stat Geek on our audio only side. Search Steel Curtain Network for Steelers.
If you're listed on audio, it might even be. This might even be after Stat Geek is
That's
out.
true.
So we'll have to see how
Point
it works.
taken.
We haven't figured that out yet. So Bryan is taking the Steelers. Sorry if I'm getting muffled. I'm trying to make sure you get this written down. I am also taking the Steelers. Normally, I would not take a team on 10 days rest for them to lose at home on 10 days rest. But you take into account that the Bengals, who are a very quarterback-heavy team, lost their quarterback. I said it last night. The Bengals are far more quarterback dependent than the Browns were. Far more. They're not ranked well as a team across the board. Otherwise, this is kind of their season right now. If they drop this one, their schedule was another thing I'm teasing for Stat Geek. It's brutal.
Yes.
So
yes, it is.
I'm taking the Steelers. I hadn't figured out if it was, that's got to be an over. I am taking the Steelers 24-13. I'm saying they're going to come out without Matt Canada and actually have more than a one-score win.
Okay.
I'm optimistic, I admit. And for all I know,
fine.
could let us down. But I'm going with it.
Absolutely. So I like that pick. I like Brian's pick too. At least that would be exciting. There would be scoring.
Yeah.
We're not used to that. I think the offense is. What did you say?
Just taking the under.
Wait till you hit 34.5 was the line. Okay. So just wait. And I picked my score, not even thinking about it. So I think the Steelers are a team that is going to rebound. You're going to see them improve. Morale can be a lot to just, we talked about Kenny Pickett at the beginning of the show. Like, I want to have fun playing the game again. I think that matters. So I like the Steelers. I just talked with Brandon Harriet, B-Dirt, before we recorded here for my Friday Let's Ride podcast. And he talked about how Browning, the quarterback, he said he's like a 1, maybe 2 read guy, and he's going to try and run it. So if the Steelers can stymie the first 2 reads, they have a good chance of getting to him if they can plug up the running lanes. But he also mentioned how they're not built to run the ball a lot. They're built to throw and pass protect. And now they don't have their quarterback.
Up the run, like?
Yes. So it just doesn't seem like their scheme is necessarily going to work without Joe Burrow. I like the Steelers offense to bounce back. I've got the Steelers 27, Cincinnati 17. That's right. I like that.
You got the over as well.
I've got the over. I think this is going to have more scoring. I don't know why I feel that way. Brian, go ahead.
Could I pull a Dave Schofield and add an over under here? I think it's a good one.
I didn't count that other one from last week or 2 weeks ago.
I forget what that was.
We all had it right, so it didn't matter.
Okay, well, this one you might want to count.
Okay, so I'll write it down and we'll see how.
We have been talking about everybody's been talking about this for, I think, 58, 59 games. The Steelers not getting over 400 total yards. And I'm going to say over. I'm thinking it's going to happen this week.
No, I'm taking under.
I'm taking under as well.
400, he said?
Yep.
All right. Boy,
I'd be happy with 350.
Yeah, seriously. Let's get these super chats here. Oral Richards give us $10. Thank you very much for the tip. He said 2024 number 1 need quarterback. He has 0 elite traits. He has to overcome Kansas City, Cincinnati, Houston, Buffalo, Baltimore, Chargers, and Jacksonville quarterbacks to win just a playoff game, much less a Super Bowl. Playoff wins not enough. Hey, not a Kenny Pickett fan. That's fine. You're entitled to your
0
opinion.
elite traits. Awful lot of comebacks.
A Steele gives us $1.99. He says Kenny Pickett 2 touchdowns, George Pickens 55 yards, Jalen Warren touchdown, and no to Brian's O face. Love it. Okay. All right. So there you have our predictions. Let's do some Steelers trivia. Okay, I gotta think. Mike Hilton, Brian. Mike Hilton. That's the answer.
Okay.
Oh no, boys! I'm going historic on you, and Dave. There was nothing you could have done.
I don't, because it's no fun. If it's like peeking at Christmas presents. Why would I do that? That's no fun.
But when I go historic, I mean something happened 60 years ago today. We know what it was. 11/22/63. John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Yeah,
on
I
this
knew
date
that. I knew
60
that.
years ago
I knew
today.
that. Yeah.
So,
is he a Bengals fan?
no, but he was the president of the
Oh.
United States, and
Oh,
the
really?
Steelers and Bengals together have had mutual players with 5 presidents' names. Who were they? And I'm going spoiler here. There was never a President Ogunjobi, and Hamilton was not a president, so you can't say Kobe Hamilton either. So I'm going to help you guys out.
So it's someone who played on both teams
and has a president last name.
President last name.
5?
5 of them.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Harrison.
James Harrison is 1.
Although
James
Harrison was only
James-
president for a couple of months, wasn't he?
I'm going to say Washington,
Oh,
but I just am throwing out a president's name.
There was two Harrisons that were president.
Oh, that's right. I was just
So
thinking of
Washington.
Washington is definitely one of them, and that was a very good defensive back in the early 80s, Sam Washington. Good job. That's 2.
Just naming Adams.
Adams is not. I kind of thought that would be. It's not.
Bush. I'm just naming names now. I'm just naming presidents.
There was not a Bush. But
Gilbert.
Oh, Carter.
Chris Carter. I'm not talking about our old friend Chris
CC.
Carter. I'm not talking about your buddy CC, but Chris Carter from 2011, 2013 was a Steeler, and then a Bengal from 2014 to 2015. So that's 3. And one of the best linemen from the late 80s and most of the 90s for the Steelers played on both teams. And has a president's
How
last
many
name.
have we not gotten?
I think we've got 3, right?
You're down to 2.
Yeah,
There's
so we've
2
got 3 of the
left.
5.
Jefferson.
This was in your time, Jeff. This was a great lineman for the Steelers for most of the 90s.
Most of the 90s? And when I was watching the 90s, I wasn't watching the line. I was watching the skill players. I don't know who the hell the linemen were back then.
Because there was no President Strelzik or anything like that.
Brian O'Toole said Biden.
Yeah, we his son painted the lines on the field for both teams. Says Brian
Obama.
O'Toole.
No,
I'm just going backwards. George Bush. No, I already guessed Bush.
There's no
Okay.
Trump. There's no
I really
Clinton.
don't know. Why don't you just tell us who it was?
John
There's no Reagan.
Jackson.
Jackson.
John Jackson.
John Jackson. Remember number 65, John Jackson?
Nope.
Oh my gosh. He played for the Steelers on that line for 10 years.
In the 80s and 90s?
Left tackle, yeah.
I was born in 83, just so you know.
88 to 97, Jeff.
So you think I remember from when I was 5?
But that
Jeff,
was 9 more years.
You
man.
were big on that
14.
95 team, though.
Yes,
that was
the
the years
skill
that room was really in its glory.
The skill position players. My
Oh.
Barry Foster cards were legit back then.
John Jackson was, come on, live chat. John Jackson.
Okay,
Mr. Wires is
Jackson.
saying, yeah, Jackson was good.
Uh,
And
let's
our
go
good
through
friend,
president's name.
one of our good friends got the last one.
Mhm.
And it is Johnson. There was a Brandon Johnson that played for both teams, but Tim Johnson, the defensive tackle from Penn State, had almost 10 years in the league, played for both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
What a trivia question. Who would have ever thought that we were talking about presidential names and we didn't get to say Ulysses Gilbert III? The love child. The love child.
Where did he end up? Tampa?
Yeah, he
don't
was in Tampa. Because wasn't because it was
Yeah, it was
a
Tampa.
preseason game he was playing
Yep.
against the Steelers.
He's not on a roster right now, is he? I don't think so. Nor do I care to look it up. So here we go. We're moving on. Good trivia, there, Brian. Okay, Dave, your trivia. What you got?
I just decided to bring this one up this week. A lot often gets made of the Steelers and their defense. Oh, it should be so much better. Oh, they have the most expensive defense in the NFL. Well, the Steelers do have, quote unquote, the most expensive defense in the NFL. If you are looking at cap hit numbers for 2023. Now, cap hit numbers don't always tell the whole story. Because think about it. You could restructure someone who has a huge salary and for 1 year it's down. So if it's a big restructure year for one team with a lot of defenders, they might not be up there where they are. If you got guys at the end of their contracts, like a Cam Hayward getting towards the end of his, that they could really drive that number up. But the Steelers, according to overthecap.com, do have the biggest salary cap hit on the defense. Can you name the rest of the top 5?
Teams, expensive defenses in the league.
Expensive defenses in the league.
Okay. Is Cleveland in the top 5?
Cleveland is actually, I'm trying to find them there. They are not in the top 5. Why can't I find the Browns? Well, because they restructured everybody to save all this money this year to roll it into next year. So yeah,
because
they're
of old
actually
Deshaun.
Because
of Deshaun.
Yes.
I almost said Minka Fitzpatrick, so I'm glad Jeff went first.
So the Steelers are the most expensive. Who are the next 4 in any order?
I'm gonna steal one from live chat. I'm gonna steal one from live chat and say the San Francisco 49ers.
It is not the 49ers. They're actually
they restructured a bunch of people.
They're about 11 or 12.
Oh, I got a good one.
But what's that, Brian?
Chicago Bears.
The Chicago Bears. They are more expensive than the 49ers, but they are not in the top 5.
Oh wow.
What about here's a shot in the dark. Jacksonville Jaguars. Just randomly saying a name.
Just outside the top 5. They're
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
Los Angeles Chargers.
Los Angeles Chargers. That is correct. They are in the top 5. They're third. So
is he still with them?
Mack and Boza, or both there.
Yeah.
That's what I
in
was
that safety. Who's the safety they have? Always
James?
hurt. No.
Was that Derwin James? No. Who was that?
I thought Derwin James is the guy he's thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the Dallas Cowboys?
The Dallas Cowboys, they are just ahead of the Bears.
Let's say Los Angeles Rams.
The Los Angeles Rams, they actually are dead last.
Okay.
What about the Eagles? The Eagles. Philly.
You would think the Eagles. Eagles are middle of the road. That's just what they do. They kind of invest.
Baltimore Ravens.
You would think it would be the Ravens, but the Ravens aren't. They're down. They spend a lot more on offense.
Detroit Lions. I'm just naming teams now.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Detroit. Hold on. Detroit Lions have the most expensive offense.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
But Brian, you just got one because the whole reason I asked it this week.
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati Bengals.
I didn't cheat, but I figured they're playing the Bengals, so they're probably
I'll give you each one more guess, and then I'll give you the other two.
I'm going to go Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs, they're
Aaron Jones.
They're just below the 49ers.
We'll take one from. I'm going to take one from the live chat and go with the Patriots.
The Patriots, they are just behind the Jaguars. The next two, the number 2 expensive defense, just behind, barely behind the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mr. Wires.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No.
Okay. Wow.
The Jets.
Nobody circles the wagon.
Like the Buffalo Bills.
Like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, they've got an offensive.
And then the team that's 5th, they're barely ahead of some other ones, is actually the Miami Dolphins.
Wow.
Tim Lyons just said that on Facebook. Very good.
Well, because they have some expensive corners. Now, here's my follow-up to that. Out of those 5 defenses, how many of them do you think are currently in the top 10 defenses in the NFL?
How many of those top 5 teams are in the top
5
10?
Salary cap teams or in the top 5 defenses?
And did that top 5, you're saying yardage?
Yardage, yes.
Not Pittsburgh.
I want to see one.
Not Buffalo, I don't think. Yeah, I was gonna say 1 or maybe 0.
It is 1, but Jeff said not them, but it is them. The Buffalo Bills are 10th.
Oh, Buffalo's thing.
They are 10th. They're the only one in the top 10. Who do you think's next out of those when we in ranking them? After Buffalo would come
Miami.
Miami would be the next one. They're 12th. And who do you think's third out of those 5?
Chargers.
No. I don't even remember the other name.
It's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
So even though it's the other teams that are there in the top 5, they even have worse defenses than the Steelers. The Steelers are 27th, the Bengals are 30th, and the Chargers are 31st.
Wow, I got a lot of haughty derision from both of you on that one. It's like, no.
Yep. So
Wow.
So believe it or not, you're like, oh, the Steelers have they pay so much money on defense and they're not very good. Well, some of the teams that are up there next to them are even worse.
Don't write that article, because that's just going to feed the narrative of it's not worth to pay the defense. All right, that's good. That was
but like I said, this is with an asterisk, because a team could have very expensive players and simply, restructure their contracts this year.
Yeah.
So the Steelers restructured Minkah Fitzpatrick. If the Steelers restructured TJ Watt for half of what they could have, that would have dropped them down to just inside the top 5.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been the most expensive anymore. So,
okay, let's do some quick final thoughts here. Get out of here. And I guess I'll do mine quickly and just say I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. Whether you're working, whether you're watching football by yourself, or whether you're surrounded by family and friends, enjoy it. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Dave, go ahead.
Oh, Bryan gets to go last this week. All right. Jeff said it great. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Get it. I don't know if you all are like me. If you are looking for a reason to be excited, I'm excited about watching the Steelers this week, because I'm hoping I don't see a boring brand of football. But if we do, my goodness, then I think we're going to people will never put down their torches and pitchforks if the Steelers come out with the offense looking no different and just giving more of the same this week. I don't think it can happen. I don't think the Steelers can allow that to happen. You've got to come out there and do something. You know what? And if they come out, and let's say they come out and they're actually moving the ball, they're taking shots, but they have turnovers. At least it wouldn't be the same thing of, we're going to be so conservative, we're not turning the ball over, but we won't move it either, especially through the air. Come out, run the football, just like you have the last 3 weeks. Let's go into Cincinnati. As my big brother said to close out last night, send them down to ask a loser. Let's go.
There you go. Final thoughts, Bryan. Go ahead.
All right. So everybody here knows me, and they know me for stupid things that I say, like Mr. 2 a.m. and some of the goofy stuff that I say. But my friends and family, if they know me, and you guys don't even know me for this, but one of my favorite phrases, and I say this a couple times a week, every single week for the last probably 5 years. If this is the worst thing that happens, it's got to be a great week. And I say that all the time. And I probably said that a million times this week. And the Steelers are 6-4 right now. They fired their offensive coordinator, but there's a lot of disappointment. But if 6-4 is the worst thing that happens, it's going to be a great week. There's a lot of hope right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers because of this move. My nephew, who Noah, is you've heard me talk about him along with my kids. I'm also his godfather. His birthday was yesterday. He turned 17. And I texted him early in the morning and I said, happy birthday, period. Matt Canada got fired. He sent me back a birthday wish come true. Birthday wishes do come true. And, and I hate that we are reveling in, as somebody that's lost jobs before, I hate that we're reveling in somebody that lost their job, but that's what it is, because we live vicariously through this team. This is where we get hope. This is where we give love. So tomorrow, when we give thanks to the fact that you are a Steeler fan and not a fan of most other teams, because we've had a really good run and there's going to be more runs in us. But I'm going to give thanks for something else. I'm going to give thanks for everybody on the live chat, even those that think that I'm the stupidest man alive. I give thanks for you because that's your right as a Steeler fan. But I give thanks that every single week that I get to come on with, I'm going to steal one of Dave's lines, two of my best friends in this world, Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman. I'm giving thanks for them and the fact that we get this platform. We get to do this. We get to spout off and say whatever we want. And we get to be buddies. And we've been doing this a long time, and we're going to continue. But we can't do it without each and every one of you. Again, even the ones that think I'm an idiot, we can't do it without you. So thank you so much. God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe. And remember this: pain heals, chicks dig scars, glory lasts forever. What's that? Mic drop.
Oh, please don't drop that mic. Okay.
That's the old one.
Okay. All right, Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hi.
We'll see you next week on another Steelers preview.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.